My name is Xai, and this is my story. In 2016, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was November of 2016. This was after a year of having chest pain, and I could be in the middle of a class. I could be in the middle of just standing up doing whatever, and I would feel these sharp pain radiating through my whole entire right side of my chest. And I would just take a deep breath and bear the pain, and it would subside within a minute or two. At first, I thought maybe it was just because of exercise, and it was maybe just from doing too much stress, muscle stress because of the workout. I saw my doctor, my regular doctor, and she said, maybe you're just working out too much. You need to take some ibuprofen, and I'm sure it'll go away. So that's what I did. But the pain didn't go away. And it wasn't consistent. Sometimes it comes when I'm working out, sometimes it comes when I'm just, doing resting, but that pain would be there randomly in odd times of the day. So we couldn't really gauge what it was. And then one day, in sometime in October of 2016, I'm in my car and I'm driving on the freeway, and my hands are about this position. So I felt a little pain on my chest, and I went to rub it out like you normally would, right? And when I did that, I felt a little bump. So I was immediately concerned, and I called my doctor, got off the freeway, called my doctor, and I said, I need to come and see you because I think I have a bump on my chest. And I went to see my OB. So the next day, they got me into the office and we did an ultrasound. She told me, she said, yeah, it's a little dense, maybe it just might be a cyst or something like that. But she didn't say cancer. Then we made an appointment the following day or two and sent me downstairs. And I say downstairs because Kaiser, which is the hospital that I'm with, has it's a big hospital. So my doctor's upstairs and I go downstairs to the ultrasound. And this is where they have a bigger ultrasound, she said, that can see a lot more. So they did an ultrasound, and the doctor that did the ultrasound told me, it's a little dense, your tissues are a little dense, so we're not sure if it is cancer or anything like that. So let's take you to the other room across the hall and do a mammogram, which we did. And it turns out, my breast tissues were very dense and they didn't see anything. So it was completely normal. So I go back to the ultrasound room, and the doctor is doing an ultrasound again, but this time she's doing a biopsy. So she takes a pin that's a pretty big pin. It's about this long, roughly about that long, and it's pretty thick. It's like the size of my thumb. So she takes this needle, puts it on my chest, right? And she presses the top part like you would pop, like a bottle or something like that. She pops it, and then the needle would go in and it would grab the skin, and that's how you get the tissue from to do the biopsy. So she did it again. She's supposed to do it 2 times. Unfortunately, the second time she didn't grab anything. So she said, oh, I missed it. I'm going to do it again the 3rd time. Oh my gosh, it was so painful. I think of all of the whole entire cancer journey, that was probably one of the most painful moments to be introduced to like that cancer journey on the first time. And this is what you get, right off the gate. Right out the gate, you get this huge pain from this pin that she pokes you with. So she pokes me with this pin, and I remember looking in her eyes afterward because I'm in pain. I'm still laying down on the bed and I'm looking at her in her eyes and I hold her hand and I said, Doctor, I look at her and I said, Doctor, um, do you think this is cancer? Could this be cancer? And if it is, what's going to happen to me? That's what I was concerned about. She looked at me and she said, I don't know yet that it's cancer, but I don't think it's cancer. And let's hope for the best. So right then I knew in my gut that it was cancer. And sure enough, 3 days later, I am at the supermarket with my son, who was only 3 at the time. And, we're shopping, classic shopping in the store. I get a phone call from my doctor, and she says to me, Are you sitting down? And I said, Okay. First of all, you don't ask somebody if they're sitting down, you're going to tell them bad news. They already know that's going to be bad news. So I said, No, I'm at the supermarket shopping. And so she said, Go home. And when you get home, I will call you in 30 minutes. So I dump all of my stuff. I get my son in the car. We're driving home. I sit down on the couch and my son is playing on right at my foot and he doesn't know what's going on. I don't have anybody else because at the time I was already divorced, a single mom with 3 kids. My son is 3, my middle child is 5, and my oldest is 10. So I get the phone call and she tells me, Are you sitting down now? And I said, Yes, I'm sitting down now. I'm laughing now because it's, what, 9 years later, but in that moment, it was not funny at all. So she asked me if anybody was with me. And I said, No, I'm by myself with my 3-year-old son. And she didn't want to break it to me by myself, but she did. She said, I'm sorry, you have cancer. And the moment she said that, it felt like this whole darkness just came over my whole entire home. And I felt like, if you can imagine Alice in the Wonderland, where she falls into the hole and she's free falling and there's no end in this dark abyss. And that's how I felt at the moment. I felt like my life was completely over. I'm falling into this abyss and this is my death. And so death now has come for me and I am bawling. My son's still on the floor, doesn't know what's going on, and he's just playing. And I'm crying, and the doctor is silent on the other end. She doesn't know. She's doing her best to comfort me. And so I took in as much information as I could, and the rest of that day was it was super hard. It was very, very hard for me. I did a lot of crying for sure. And the first thing that came to my mind was, what am I going to do with my 3 children? I'm going to die, and no one's going to take care of my children and love my children the way that I do. I mean, they have their father, their grandparents, aunties, and uncles. All of them are very capable and loving, but it's not me. It's not the same. So a part of me was concerned that I was going to die. And then the other part of me was so concerned that I must fight in order to stay alive to take care of my children until they're able to take care of themselves. And then, of course, I'm also a business owner. I run a Taekwondo school, which is a martial arts school. And I have over hundreds of kids. And so I'm thinking, what about all the kids that are going to be without a teacher, without me? I need to be there for them. So these are the concerns that I had in my head: was my children, my students, what are they going to do without me? I'm not done yet. I need to fight this thing. So there's the concern, the worry that I'm going to die. And then there is the indomitable spirit that came out and says, okay, I have to fight. I cannot let this defeat me because I have people that depends on me, especially my 3 little kids. And so everything now is kind of a blur, but I remember sitting down with my family. We called a family meeting at my mom's house, which we do on a regular basis for just family get together. And and when we talk about important things. And I sat my family down. I remember being on the couch, and I told my family, and I told them that, you know, I have cancer, and that, I mean, that's it. I mean, it's hard to tell them that to tell anybody in that moment that you have cancer. So especially with your family, or your loved ones. So I told my family that I had cancer, and I can't really remember what happened, because I'm sure that's it. There was just a lot of crying, a lot of concern. My mom definitely didn't want to believe it. And she said, that's just the devil. And, we're going to pray about it, and we're going to rebuke it, and you're not going to die. So that was her approach. After that, I went to my team, and I told my team that I gather. The hardest part was telling my daughter, my 10-year-old, because after her father left and I'm running the business on my own, she's 10, but she's taken on a lot of that responsibility of wanting to be a parent and help take care of her two siblings. So she bear a lot of the weight, which she was not responsible to do. But I think naturally that's what you do as an older sibling. And I was the oldest for a while in my family too. So it felt like I understood what she was. I understood what she was going through. So thankfully, I had a friend who was coaching me along the way. And when you go through these journeys, your doctor, your nurse practitioner will assign you a friend who's gone through or survived cancer, and will help you and coach you along the way, kind of show you the ropes. So I was very, very fortunate, and God bless her. She was with me, and we went to the office, and I started talking to my daughter first. We sat her down. My friend and I sat, and I couldn't do it because the moment I started speaking, it was just, crying. So my friend told her that I had cancer, and she just started crying. And her first thought was, "Are you going to die?" And we assured her that we're going to do our best, but we don't think that I'm going to die. Well, at least I told her that I wasn't going to die. And then we came out of the office. The rest of the staff are there by now. We sat everybody down. Same thing, told them that I had cancer. And I can only say those, I have cancer. That's only 3 words, right? And then the rest was explained by my friend. Thankfully, I had my friend there to do a lot of to speak on my behalf, because it was unbearable. So and then remember the 200 plus students that I had in the studio. We couldn't figure out a way to tell all of them individually, so we decided that it was just going to tell them at once. And we did a recording, a couple of videos, 5 videos in fact, explaining what I had, what I'm going to go through, and what to expect, and how the kids can help me or be a part of my journey. And it turned out to be a very beautiful thing, because um, it made the burden of telling everybody a lot easier, because I couldn't tell everybody and be in tears. I couldn't see myself doing that. So we end up telling everybody through a video, just like this one. And it made it easier for me, because we can stop and retake, stop and retake. And it took a couple of tries, but we were able to get it done, and then announce it to everybody at the same exact time. So I expressed all of my expectations and desire on the video. So it made it easier, because now all of my students, family, and friends didn't see it as a huge burden. They knew what I wanted, because I put my wishes on there. And if you want to see it, you can also we'll put the links in below, so that you can see those videos yourself. If you're somebody who's just been diagnosed with cancer and want to share this, your experience, or want to tell other people, but is struggling to do that, you can do it in that form as well. And so after all of that, it made life a lot easier, going through the treatment, getting ready for surgery, getting ready for chemo. I had the mastectomy in November 17, 2026. I had the mastectomy, And then it was about 2 weeks later, or 3 or 4 weeks later, I think it was about a month later, we had another surgery because the lymph node, they found that there was a lymph node infected. So then they had to go back and take more lymph nodes out from my armpit. After that, in January, we started chemo, and I had a port put into my chest. I highly, highly recommend putting in a port. It's annoying at first, and literally it's annoying. They take a metal about this big, and mine was in the shape of a heart, and there's a plastic on top of the metal heart. So then they put it in your chest. There's a tube that goes from your throat into the heart, and then the heart is placed. So for me, it's placed on my left side, and then the tube goes up through your throat into your throat here, and then it goes down. I can't believe I don't remember the vein that it goes through. If someone remembers it, please let me know. I think the vena cava. I think, I'm not sure, but one of the veins up in your throat, and then it shoots it down into your stomach, where it's more of an empty space where the chemo can go into, and then will go through your whole entire body. So November, I did the surgery, the mastectomy. In December, I did put in the port. And in January, on January 6th, it was a Friday, and it's my daughter's birthday. I had my first chemo. I did it on my daughter's birthday because it was a Friday. And I did it on a Friday strategically because the first 3 days of chemo, you get really exhausted because the chemo is so heavy and so intoxicating that it will kind of beat you really hard on those first 3 days. So I teach class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday is a light class. And Saturday, we didn't have any classes anymore because all the classes were canceled due to my situation. I would go in Friday morning, come and get like maybe an hour rest or two, take a nap, and then I would go back to work, pick up my children, and then go straight to work for a few hours and then come back home. And then I get to rest the Saturday, Sunday, and half of Monday, and then I go back again to working and continue to live my life as if nothing really happened, because I wanted to show my children and also my students that I was still going to be there for them no matter what happened. And I wanted to continue to live my life. And that's one of the things that I want to, my family, friends, and viewers to know, is that the mindset that you have will have such a big impact on your journey, on your survival ability. When I was going through it, I told myself that cancer was going to be something that is of me, but it was not going to be me. I was not a part of cancer, or cancer is not a part of me. Cancer is a thing that I have and now just had, but it wasn't going to be me, and it wasn't going to take over my life. So I continue and did my best to live my life as normally as I could. So that's why I schedule my chemos on Fridays, rest on the weekend, then go right back to work on Monday and continue to live my life that way. Then I would do, for the first 3 years, I took adriamycin, which is one of the biggest, which is the strongest chemo that they give you for breast cancer. So I did that for 3 months. And then in the 4th to the 6th month, we changed the medication. And it went from once every other week to now every single week. Every Friday, I was in the hospital taking the chemo. And so chemo would last for 4 hours. After that, I would come home. Sometimes, if I'm not really tired, I go straight to work and continue doing things at the office. Or if I'm too tired, I'll come home, get an hour or two rest, go pick up my children, and then go straight to work again. And thankfully, I had a team at the time that was able to do a lot of the work. So I was able to just rest and supervise or engage with the family and friends that were there. And I say all the time, and I joke, but it's actually the truth. My students and the families and the parents at Taekwondo really, really helped save my life, because when you go through chemo, there's so much pain, so much pain. And I'll explain the pain in a little bit too. So, when I go to the school and I'm hanging out with everybody and chit chatting and engaging and helping other people, talking about other people's issues, right? I remember listening to some friends about what they're going through, and here I am with like no hair at the time. I didn't have any hair at all. I was completely bald. The three or I think it was the second week after, no, the 5 to 7 days after chemo, the first chemo, I started losing hair. So we ended up shaving my head, and I was completely bald. But once all the after two rounds of chemo, I mean, I was completely bald. But I actually quite like the bald look at one point, but I would never be bald again. So right now my hair is like really long, and I have a friend, Ria, who cuts my hair and takes care of my hair now, and I'm really happy about it. I'm so proud of my hair, because I guess once you lose it, you appreciate it a little bit more, right? So, anyways, I say that my parents really helped save me, because every time I walk through the Taekwondo doors and I see my students and I see my parents, they're the ones that keep me busy, keep my mind off my pain. I'm focusing on other people, I'm focusing on the students, I'm focusing on class. And because of that shift of focus to everyone else, I took the pain went away. And from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 8:30 at night, I didn't feel any pain. I had relief. I mean, mind you, I was on medication the whole entire time, but the minute I go home, I would feel pain. I walk through the door and I will feel pain. My head will be throbbing, my fingers, my feet, my body, so painful to where I remember one night I had so much pain. I called my friend up and I said, you know what? I'm going to die. I remember sitting close to, we had a sliding door, and I'm banging my head on the door, banging my head on the wall, just to relieve the pain, because that pressure helped take the pain away for a second. I called my doctor. I told my friend, I'm going to die. I just don't want to live anymore. And that point was really, really low. That was a really low point. And I just remember wanting to die. And because it was too much suffering for me. And so my friend assured me, I'm not going to die. Just, be patient and breathe through it. And so then I know I say that now, but then it was really funny. Then it was very, very painful. So I called my doctor, and my doctor's like, you can take up to 100,000 milligrams of acetaminophen just to help relieve the pain. Normally, you shouldn't do that. It's not good for you, but I did it because I was in too much pain. And so every 4 hours, I was taking about 100,000 milligrams of no, not 100,000. I'm sorry, 1,000 milligram of ibuprofen, just acetaminophen, excuse me, just so that I can feel a little bit of relief. And even at that point, it was like one side of my brain was relieved, but the other side of my brain was not. And it felt like it was definitely inflammation, because I felt like my brain was gonna explode, and there was too much water or fluid in my brain, and I can feel my brain kind of slushing back and forth. And so just that felt so much pressure inside. And then my fingers would be so inflamed. They were just super round, like my pinky was the size of my thumb. And it was just unbelievably painful, because my body was stretched so big. There was pain in my feet. Every time I would lean back or I touch anything, if you just touch my arms and my skin, I feel pain, because I was so inflamed. And that's how painful it was when I go home. So, and remind you, when I'm at the studio, I feel no pain, because my brain is so focused on other things. But when I go home, the minute I walk through my door, the pain comes rushing in, because I'm thinking about myself. The house is quiet. I have no one to occupy my mind, and I'm thinking about my pain. And so that's how painful it was. Chemo does a lot. I remember my fingernails being so black, and my nails, they say that if at some point some people lose their nails because of the chemo, and thankfully I didn't lose any nails, but my finger was really black. So I had black fingertips that would run to about half middle of the fingers, half the knuckles. My toes were black. My fingers were black, and it was just really scary, very scary. So in total, I had for breast cancer 6 months of chemo, and we skipped 2 of them at the end of for breast cancer because the doctor was telling me that it was getting too much to where I couldn't. I had neuropathy, and that's where you get tingling and numbing sensation in the fingers and the toes. And so my doctor wanted me to stop taking it. So we end up uh, shortening the chemo treatment by two doses. Of course, after that, we thought everything was good. And then in October, I went to see my doctor, and my doctor said, actually, in November, we went to see my doctor, and my oncologist said, now that we're done with chemo, the next thing, or actually, after chemo, we went and did radiation. So we did 28 sessions of radiation. And I remember them burning, I mean, not burning, but I remember going through the radiation tube, and they build this little piece. So, and I had little tattoos that they put on my body to mark where you would put, where they would set the area for the radiation, right? I remember having to stay there really still, and they would shoot the radiation. At first it was just a couple of seconds, and then build itself up to about 30 seconds. And I remember telling myself, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And then I would count. I remember saying and quoting from the Bible, this time will pass. This time is going to pass. So I told myself, I can do it. This time's going to pass. And I remember counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the beep sound would come on, and I would then get to take a breath. So I'm counting this, I'm saying these things in my head, my mantra to keep me focused, to stay positive while I'm going through that. So that's one of the strategies that I used while I was going through radiation. Radiation was really tough. I had to go in every single Friday. Remember, because of my strategy is to do everything on Friday so that I could have the weekend to rest and then go to work on Monday, because I want to keep my life as normal as I could. So after 28 days of radiation, my entire right side of my chest was like burgundy, and you can see like sunburn on my backside, like the radiation has gone through and then now it's in the backside. So my backside looks like it's sunburned. On my front side is burgundy with blisters. And so thankfully my nurse was really smart, and she had me layer caked uh, Vaseline plus the Aquaphor and another solution that we put on there every day. I had to apply 2 or 3 times of these creams, and it would just cake it on there so that the blister wouldn't pop, and or it wouldn't have too much blisters, and I wouldn't suffer so much, right? So I had that on. I wrapped myself in that every single day, uh, and even probably a couple weeks after, until everything healed. And even to this day, I still have scars, sunburn marks all over my broad line, and my back side is a little bit. My right side is a little bit darker than my left side, because you can see where the radiation had hit. And so even this side of my arm, it's harder for me to stretch, and also it's a little bit more tight than my left side. My right side is weaker than my left side, of course, because of all the trauma that has gone through. Well, fast forward to November. So because I had estrogen positive cancer, what that means is the estrogen that women produce feeds the cancer. So because of that, my doctor recommended that I either take medication for the next 5 to 10 years and or take out my ovaries. They are the number one producer of estrogen for women. So I decided, okay, that's a no-brainer. I have kids already. I don't need to have any more kids, so let's just take out my ovaries. So we did. So as a cancer patient, anytime you have surgery, it's very likely that they're going to take biopsies from anything that they take out of your skin, out of your body. They did the biopsy of the ovaries, and my doctor calls me up and she said, "Hey Zai, guess what? You need to come into the office. I have to tell you, I have some news for you." So I go in and she says, "We found that there's breast cancer in your ovaries." And so I'm shocked, I'm upset. And she said, "Okay, we're going to go ahead and do a PET scan." Now, let me backtrack a little bit. The whole entire time while I was going through chemo and radiation, I kept telling my doctor, I said, "My intuition tells me that something is not right. Something is wrong. And I would like to get a PET scan or a CT scan of some sort because I feel that if something is not right, I want to scan." And I was pushing for it, but my doctor at the time said, "No, you don't need it. According to standards, you only have a stage 2B, which is the cancer started in one area, then it moved to only one lymph node. So therefore, it didn't go anywhere else. And she didn't want to do a PET scan or a CT scan. So the whole entire 12 months, I'm advocating for myself. I'm pushing and pushing. And I said, I need to get a PET scan, I need to get a PET scan. But she wouldn't do it. And then I said, okay, fine, let's just listen to her because she knows best, right? That's what I thought. So then we go into this surgery, the ovarectomy, where they move the ovaries and they find breast cancer in the ovaries. She said this is the last place that the cancer would want to go. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, if cancer likes estrogen, wouldn't that be the first place it wants to go to? Because that's where the gold mine is, right? Because that's where estrogen would be found. I mean, they produce it, so therefore, I don't know. To me, it makes sense, but it could, I don't know. But she said, no, that's the last place that cancer would go to. So now this sparks her to order a PET scan. And then I'm pissed off because I've been asking for a PET scan for the whole entire year and she didn't give it to me. So I tell her, you need to get me the PET scan, right? So she gets me the PET scan. And we do the scan after we find out that the cancer had moved to my ovaries. So now we're trying to fight it after the fact to see if it's anywhere else. Then, by this time, I've already fired my first doctor and now I have a second doctor. And she's amazing. She understands what I'm going through and she listens to me and she gives me pretty much whatever I want. So then my second doctor calls me because now I have a new doctor. And she calls me and she says, Zai, you need to come into the office. This is after the PET scan. I go to the office. She sits me down and she says, Zai, I have good news and I have bad news. And I said, okay, all right. She said, what do you want to hear first, the good news or the bad news? And I said jokingly, tell me the bad news in a really good way. And so she did. She said, okay, the bad news is you have cancer. And I was like, that's not good at all. And she said, okay, let me tell you the good news. The good news is you have colon cancer. And I'm like, what in the world? How do I have two cancers consecutively, right? And so it could have been at the same time, but we didn't do the PET scan, so we didn't know if it was at the same time or not. And so we go in and do the surgery, and it was exactly 1 year later, November 17th, 2027, that I get the colon removal, right? So we did, they removed the colon, and then I came home and rested, got better. We did another, by this time, it's January again, and it was a Friday because all of my oncologists and the infusion center knows my schedule. So, and I'm a regular. I'm at the hospital all the time. And so they know me now and by first name. And so I did it on a Friday again, start chemo again. And I'm doing chemo every single Friday. After 6 months or close to about the fifth month, I'm starting to get the same thing. I'm getting neuropathy. I'm getting a tingling all over my fingers and toes. And I remember my doctor telling me that we need to stop chemo when you can't button your shirts anymore or when you're starting to drop things. And so it was at school. I'm teaching a class and I'm holding a timer in my hand. And I remember setting the time, but I don't remember dropping letting go of the timer. And I just remember holding the timer in my hand. The next thing I see is the timer on the floor, and I've dropped the timer. And I can't recall what happened during that time. And I was already struggling to button my shirt. And so I called my doctor and I said, hey, these are the signs that are happening to me. So, I think it's time to stop. So she stopped the chemo and we decided, I think we were also short like 2 weeks or two sessions that we didn't, 2 doses, and we didn't complete it. So after finishing that chemo, we thought everything was good. We thought everything was fine. Yay, chemo's over. This time, backtracking, the first time I had to do chemo, we put a port in. And I was super happy that I'm done with cancer, not going to do it anymore. So we would take so I went in as soon as I could and say, take out this port for me. So they took out the port. I didn't want anything to do with cancer anymore. But unfortunately, right after my surgery in November 2027, we had to put another port. So my first incision wasn't even healed, and we had to put a second port in. And so it was super painful. But they did play my favorite song during the procedure. So it was relaxing. So then we did chemo again. After chemo, we're now like in June, July of 2018. So I do routine checkups. So every 3 months I go in for a checkup at this point. And 3 months were good. Nothing, no metastases. At the 6 months, my doctor tells me, we do a CT scan, and my doctor says, hey, I have some news for you. And I said, what now? What is it now? So my doctor says, the colon cancer has metastasized to your liver. So I am completely floored. I'm like, what? I thought we did this already. I thought we killed it. I thought we destroyed cancer with chemo. Why? So then the question was, do I want to do surgery, remove the cancer from the liver, or ride it out? And my mom was like, just ride it out. Pray to God that it would go away. And I was like, oh no, I don't think so. So then we go in and I do surgery because of the position of the cancer was in the back of the liver. So it was a major surgery. I was an inpatient for 5 days. They had to do a major operation and resection the liver. And thankfully, livers grow back. So it wasn't a big concern. And also, thankfully, we're able to catch it before they couldn't do it anymore. So they cut it, put me back together, and I healed. It took me a long time, probably about 3 months to get kind of my life back to normal because it was a major surgery. And then took a long time, almost a year, for me to be able to do any of my regular exercises. Then, okay, so we're good. I'm thinking we're good. And we go to a third scan, nothing happens. We go to another scan, and guess what? I get news. My doctor says, hey, Xai, I have some other news to tell you. And I said, what is it now? And she said, unfortunately, the colon cancer has metastasized to your lungs. And I said, what in the world, right? Why? Like, what are the odds that one person can have 2 cancers and also have all these metastases? My doctor said, it's a rare thing, but it does happen. And I even told the doctor, I said, wait, but I'm healthy. I eat mostly good. And I eat good and I exercise and I try, meditation and breathing and all this stuff. Why is it happening to me? And she reminded me that even triathlons, these people also get cancer as well. And there are chances that you can get two cancers at the same time. And so we have surgery. So they remove one of the section half of the lungs on the right side. Just 2 days ago, I had my last visit with my oncologist. We are clear 7 years from breast cancer and 5 years from colon cancer. So I am very happy to say that I am free and I am in remission. I am living my best life right now. My 3 children are older. They're happy, they're strong, healthy, obedient. The business is going, thriving. My students and friends are there to support me continuously. My family and friends are there. Sad that within, the last 2 years, my father passed away, but, he's in a better place now, and my mom is doing good. My family is doing good. So, life is good, and I'm growing. My business is growing. I've started 2 new businesses, and I'm learning how to fly. I'm doing things that I want to do. I get to rest, enjoy myself. I think one of the biggest things that I learned from this journey is that I'm a hard worker, right? I'm a hard worker, and I push and I stress out a lot. But I learned that it's important to take breaks, to rest, to get enough sleep, to enjoy yourself, to enjoy the fruit of your labor, to enjoy your family and your friends. And it's okay not to press yourself so much and work too hard. You need to enjoy your life as well. And that's what I learned. I learned that I needed to take a break and enjoy what God has given me. And also through all of this, God has been alongside the whole entire time. And every single chance that I would run into another hurdle, it was just 1 inch short of disaster. The breast cancer could have been worse, but it wasn't. The colon cancer could have been worse, but it wasn't. And it metastasized, but they caught it just in time in order to do surgery. They metastasized to my lungs and my liver, my lungs, but it was just in time to do surgery. And every single time I was just shy of disaster, because God was there the whole entire time. And my friends, I was on so many prayer lists. Under God's grace, those are the 2 things that were prominent, is that life is too precious and I can't keep working too hard. I need to enjoy life and rest. Be less stressed, be happy, exercise, eat healthy, and those are the things that I learned. And so I hope that this video will help some of you out there who are going through, who's received this news for the first time, or is going through it, or have family and friends that are going through it. And one last thing that I want to share is that as much as this is hard for me, the patient, it is 10 times harder for my families to watch me go through it, especially my mom, because we, the patient, we know what's going on, right? We know when our schedules, appointments are, we know that we can feel the pain, so we can measure it, right? And we can equate that to something. But our family and our friends, especially our mom, cannot understand that pain. They can only guess how we feel. So they burden themselves with that thought, and it becomes even harder for them. So then what they do is they worry because they can't help us. Unfortunately, my mom, while I was going through liver surgery, she couldn't bear watching me suffer so much that she ended up having a heart stroke right at the same time. And my mom suffered a lot from watching me. She was very stressed. So I do advise, or I would recommend that all the family and friends who you have, that if you're going through this and you're a patient and you have family and friends who are going through this, maybe help them, encourage them, talk to them, tell them what you're going through, converse with them, communicate with them, and also have them go and get help. Get some therapy, talk to friends, get into groups. Right now, there's so many group chats or different private groups that you can get into to support family and friends who have cancer in their family. So That's one last thing that I want to share. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to hear my story and see what I've gone through. And I hope that this will help someone out there. And if you have any questions, please comment below, send me a message. I will do my best to help in the best way that I can. So that's it. Thank you so much. Bye.